Welcome to the Fire Sprinkler Podcast with Chris and Logan.
Introducing the new wrenchable protective cap for reliable flat plate concealed sprinklers. Faster, safer, and cleaner installations. Wrenchable protective caps, color-coded for sprinkler temperature and marked with finished sealing location for use with the new W3 wrench on reliable G5, RFC, and LT56C sprinklers. Reliable's concealed sprinklers are even easier to install with the wrenchable protective cap. Using the Model W3 wrench, sprinklers are installed without removing the protective cap. The cap color indicates the sprinkler's temperature rating, red for ordinary and green for intermediate temperature. Markings are provided on the cap to indicate alignment with a nominal finished sealing height. The cap diameter is slightly larger than the cup and is tapered to avoid damage to the finished sealing when being removed. During trim out, protective caps are easily removed using any half-inch tapered thread adapter attached to the end of a pipe or other extension. Simply thread the adapter onto the protective cap and pull to remove. After the protective cap has been removed, the cover plate can be installed using the available adhesive-backed silicone disc attached to any flat surface having the same approximate diameter as the cover plate. In most cases, removal of the protective cap and installation of the cover plate can be safely performed without the need for a ladder. Contact us about our complete line of flat cover plate concealed sprinklers with the new wrenchable protective caps.
Like and subscribe.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this video episode. I always forget to throw that in now that we're doing the video portion of the podcast. This episode of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast, I have Cary Weber. Cary is the Director of Technical Services at Reliable Automatic Sprinkler. Cary, how's it going this afternoon?
Doing great, Chris. Doing great. How about you?
It's still too early to tell. A lot of day left. You know how these things go.
Sure.
Cary is here to talk about kind of the tech services department, what you guys do at Reliable with your tech services, and how they can help you get the information you need easier, better, faster to make. Obviously, the idea is to be the best at what we do. So, Cary, why don't you kind of start by telling me what the technical services department at Reliable is all about?
Sure. Yeah, and thanks for having us on again, Chris. Enjoyed the last couple we've done, and always good to talk to you. So, yeah, our technical services group was put together, I don't know exactly how long ago, but in its infancy, it really had one goal, self-serving, in fact, and that was to sell more special hazard systems. So initially we were called, and we still have an email group called Technical Sales. And so differentiating a technical sale from a non-technical sale, I wasn't here, but the idea being that we were to go out and promote double interlock systems, deluge systems, all the non-standard stuff. If it's not wet or dry, it was considered technical. So the group was put together to go out and really promote the sales of those specific products. I remember when I started in the industry, I'm almost hesitant to say when, but it was 1978. In 1978, and by the way, I've been associated with Reliable products for virtually my entire career, just by happenstance.
Wow.
But I do remember when I started in the industry, and we dealt with what we call special hazard systems, deluge again, pre-action, things like that. We didn't go to the Reliable book, sad to say. We typically went to the Viking book and the Grinnell book at the time, right? They had the great big notebooks and all of the stuff. And so if you were doing something kind of out of the ordinary, that's where you went. So, fast forward through time, we have technical people here, right? Down at the end of the hall is our engineers, and if you wanted to know something about the fire sprinkler head or the valve, like what the thread pitch was on the faceplate bolts or something like that, right? That kind of technical information that you really need in the field, right? You could get that from our engineering department, and that really was our support mechanism until the technical sales. So right. Again, fast forward, we develop our special hazards product line. The guys that were here before me, the generations in tech services before me, did a great job in promoting and selling the special hazards valves. which we still do, by the way. That's one of our primary functions. But aside from that, we do a lot of other things now. I mean, the department has really developed into just a full-blown support mechanism for virtually anybody, anybody out there. Um, I would say, at the risk of sounding cliche, right? Our number one job is customer support. And
Right.
that's kind of how I started when we started talking about this a week or so ago. And it was like, well, how am I going to put this together? It's really about customer support. But the cliche is, as I started listing it out, we've got, a dozen different customers to deal with, right? Including someone like yourself, right?
Right.
Industry support, industry promotion, that type of stuff. One of the primary things that we do in tech services. So we do a lot of different stuff for a lot of different customers. But if you really want to just boil it down, it's, who's my customer today? Is it my engineer that's trying to develop a new valve at the end of the hall? Is it John and our marketing team that needs some technical oversight of marketing assets and things like that? Is it the customer, the fitter out in the field who's run up against an issue setting up a valve or something like that? So
Right.
that's, again, the cliche part. Everybody's our customer. I got a dozen different varieties of it.
So is your technical services, what is the kind of general makeup of your technical services department? Is it designers? Is it the engineers who design the products? Do you have any fitters on your technical services department? What's the makeup?
Okay, so right now, let me just real quick, in the office here, as myself as the director, I report to the vice president of product development. We have an administrative assistant, like all departments do. We also have three ladies who do graphics support for our technical bulletins. We have another one who does primarily video work for valve setups and things like that. So she's doing the editing and cutting and all volume and all that stuff, putting those together that you've seen on the website.
Yeah.
And then we have another lady who is primary function is to do CAD modeling, 2D and 3D models of all of our valves,
Okay.
as well as in the future moving into the BIM and Revit world.
Right.
So I would not hesitate to say that Reliable fell a little bit behind the power curve on some of those digital assets. But we've made great strides in the last 2 years to get a lot of stuff out there, and people can find that all on the website. So that's internal here. In addition, we've got Matt Rouleau, who used to work for Globe. And when the Globe Victaulic merger happened, whenever that was now, you and I were just talking about last year, kind of went
Yep.
by. I think it was the year before that, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken. But yeah, so when that transpired, we were very fortunate to get Matt Rouleau, who is a 6'9" member
Yep.
still. He's done design. He's done ran his own company. He and his wife had their own company up in the Michigan area. So yeah, we got Matt as a fitter. Now, that's the guys here. In addition, we have 7 other guys spread out around the country. All of these guys are sprinkler people, or what we
Okay.
would call a sprinkler guy, right? I mean, like I consider you and I to be like sprinkler guys.
Right.
So they're not salespeople. They're not design engineers that are designing products. These are guys that have done sprinkler design, estimating, installation, troubleshooting, inspection, service, all of that stuff. So kind of around the country, I got Scott Hansen in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Hmm.
We've got Sam Schwander in Pennsylvania. Close by in Delaware, I've got Brandon Telford. Most of the time out on the road, but lives in the area here in South Carolina, is Alan Larson. George Nicola down in Fort Myers, Florida. Antonio Luis lives in Houston, and he represents us throughout a wide range of the South America markets. And then in Portland, Oregon, Dave Thompson. So that's the makeup of our group, those dozen or plus or minus individuals. We've looked at this and we've added it up, and we have with that group over 300 years of combined sprinkler
Wow.
experience, what I call sprinkler design experience. So
Right.
these are the guys that can talk the talk, and maybe not from a fitter standpoint walk the walk, but they would be able to have a nice conversation with you about about sprinklers.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's half the battle, right? It's not just, um, I would think, and I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think a lot of the people that call up the technical services, and actually before I ask this question, what is the technical services? Who's it geared towards? Like if I have
Oh,
if I'm a fitter, I'm out in a service call out in the field, I'm having a hard time getting something reset. Am I able to call the technical services department to help them walk me through?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. We one of those one of six gentlemen, because not everyone does it, but one of six gentlemen rotates onto what we call tech service phone duty for the week. So depending, if it's Dave Thompson out in Oregon, you might call him at 7 in the morning from the East Coast. He's probably not going to answer, right? It's a little early for him, but although I do see him up at 6 o'clock in the morning sometimes. But kind of during normal business hours, depending on where the individual is located, someone's answering that phone call and or taking care of emails throughout the day. So who calls us up? You name it, Chris. I mean, fitters, right? I'm having a problem understanding this valve or getting it to set up.
Yeah.
We've got designers calling up. Hey, I've got this fire sprinkler head. I'm looking at it. I see in the bulletin it says this. What about this, this, this? So we talk about those issues. We get calls that have nothing to do with reliable products because people, I hope is the way to say it, people have come to understand that we do know about fire sprinkler systems, right? So
Right.
if a guy wants to call up and say, hey, I'm considering maybe this system over that system, what do you guys think? We don't do actual design work, and we're very careful that we let people know that. I'm not going to draw your system out for you, but we will answer questions and help you select the right product. And quite honestly, it might not always be a reliable product. So
Right.
I have no bones about saying that either. Multiple times where you just have to say, look, we don't have it. You need to go talk to one of the competitors. We know they have it. And by the way, here's their bulletin number. So
That's actually when I was years ago when I was first starting out dealing with salesmen and stuff like that. That would always be one of the first questions I would ask. They would give me their pitch on the product, and I would say, "Okay, so you've told me you've sold me on the product. What are the negatives?" And if I got a salesman that was honest and would say, you know what, to be honest with you, we've had this complaint, we've had this complaint, we have this complaint, chances are I'm going to buy that product. But if a salesman were to tell me nothing, everybody thinks it's perfect, listen, there's all people get complaints about products. It's not a bad thing as long as you learn from it and you evolve, right? But what drives me nuts is when people think they have a perfect product. I don't think that the podcast is perfect by any standards, but I know and I'm working towards improving, right?
sure.
Um,
So along those lines, and the kind of the way you led into that was the ability to actually communicate with that customer if it's a contractor, which in most cases that's kind of what we're talking about, right? So
right.
if they're gonna start asking about flows and pressures and spacings and things like that, we've got some great technical salespeople. We really do. We've got other guys who excel in other areas, maybe the 10th tee box, I don't know, but you know what I mean. So we kind of I don't know, moderate between the customer and our salespeople sometimes, quite honestly.
Right.
We'll get calls from salespeople going, hey, this is beyond me. Can you guys come out and give them a presentation? Again, a lot of part of what we do when we're traveling, right, is out just doing education along with our salespeople. For the most part, aside from the COVID shutdown, we travel with our salespeople.
Yeah.
When that's what's needed, that we'll set up a route. Maybe if I got a guy in, let's say it's Sioux Falls that needs to go to Omaha for 3 days, 4 days, hit a number of customers, do presentations, answer questions, things like that. So that ability to kind of to understand exactly what they're asking, what they're telling us is good, bad, indifferent. And so that's another one of the functions of our department is to then understand the information and bring it back to this building and work with the design engineers or whomever it is and say, look, this is what we're hearing out in the field. They don't like this, they don't like this, they really like this. So that again, ability to understand what the contractor's telling us. If you tried to talk to the engineers down at the hall, nothing against them, they do a great job at what they do, they wouldn't understand, right? They're
Right.
not sprinkler designers, they're sprinkler, designers, right? They
Yeah.
design the
They design the
sprinkler. So
sprinkler themselves. They don't design
yeah,
how it
yeah,
goes. Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly right. So
Yeah. I
So,
would assume you would get the same kind of conflict with dealing with the system designers when you're talking sprinkler with a system designer and you're talking sprinkler with a fitter. You talk with a fitter, they're going to talk about how it operates, how it feels, how it goes in, things like that. When you're talking to a designer, most designers, anyways, there are some really, really skilled and knowledgeable designers out there, but a lot of them are talking about um, they're talking about not lines and circles per se, especially now that it's the 3D and the BIM and everything like that, like you spoke about earlier, is coming into play more. It's not just lines and circles anymore, but a lot of them back in the say the glory days of design, it was lines and circles, right? And that's always my joke for my guys. Like I'm a fitter. I can still, I can still put in pipe, maybe not with the best of them, but with the mediocre of them. And that's always my joke. Well, it was easy, it was easy to draw. I don't know why you're having such a difficult time with it, right? And that usually ends the conversation with a few swear words.
yeah,
I get directions on where I can go.
all in good
And
fun though, all in
yeah,
good fun.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm not an ass about it. Sometimes I am an ass
Yeah,
about it,
okay.
but that's
No,
the nature of the beast.
so our joke, going back to the lines and circles, and I'm guessing anybody that's been in this business at a long time, long enough, has heard it, which is the one rule in sprinkler design, at least when you're drawing by hand, is never draw more in the morning than you can erase in the afternoon.
That's a really good one. Yeah,
Well,
I always just, it didn't seem that heavy when I was putting it in like this, right? That 8-inch to get 10 up on the 10-inch pipe stands was, I don't know
yeah,
why you guys are taking so long with it. It took me 30 seconds to draw it. What's wrong?
well, yeah, and think about the tools that are available today, though, right? That
Yeah,
I go back to I drew by hand for most of my career, um, and you really had to be able to visualize what you were drawing in 2D,
yeah,
right? You
yep,
talk about the 10-inch pipe not being heavy. It's the old, you got a 24-foot length of pipe. You want to throw these through bar joists that are 3 feet apart. Show
that's
me
right.
how that's going to
Yeah,
work. Well, it went
yeah.
in okay on the drawing. I mean, seriously.
It's
So,
all easy like this. Yeah, like some of my favorite, like our family business has been around since 1983. My uncle was doing our design back in the early days. Still one of the smartest sprinkler guys that I know and talk to. And I love going through buildings that if there's a renovation or something that we have to do. Uh, I almost love calling them and saying, "Hey, do you have these drawings still available?" It's like, "Oh, those aren't on the computer." Like, so I got to go through the archives and you get to pull out the purple blueprints with the ammonia and all that stuff on them.
sure,
It's the
yeah,
glory days. I like that.
I remember those days running the ammonia prints for like 4 hours at a time. It was horrible stuff. But
Yeah.
you talk about blueprints and so forth. I mean, we've been in business now for we're in our 101st year. We just had our centennial. Everybody's probably seen all of that
Yep.
jazz that's been going on. But yeah, I mean, there's still drawings here where we pull them up, and yeah, that's an old hand drawn alarm valve or check valve going back any number of years. So it is nostalgic, right? Just kind of brings it back. Anyway, so we got off topic there a little bit, but yeah, I know that's the way it
um,
goes, right?
yeah, and actually kind of going on that and getting it back on topic, your marketing department on social media, by the way, and everything else has been excellent with kind of bringing back that older, kind of bringing it back to the roots where John's gone out and found 101-year-old sprinklers and posted them on social media, and it's good to see. I love it too. I've got sprinklers from the late 1800s, from the early 1900s. I get a kick out of that stuff to see where the trade came from, right? I love the history of it.
Yeah, a lot of guys collect the sprinklers. My now ex brother-in-law, but he had just this massive collection of old gauges going way
Oh
back,
yeah,
So
yeah,
he had been in the industry for a number of years before me, but in the Seattle area when they were doing renovations and stuff, the fitters were really good about grabbing some of the gauges and sprinklers and things like that and kind of spreading them around. But yeah, everybody's got their own little passion. I used to have a collection. I have no idea where it's gone now. So, but that's okay. I think I could probably find one around here if I needed it. But
yeah. Absolutely. So as far as your tech services, getting back to the tech
mhm.
services portion of the conversation, um, you guys are available. Like, is it like a Monday to Friday thing, 24 hours a day, or what are the hours for it, and how do people get a hold of it?
Yeah, so how to get two ways to get in touch with us. 1-800-55-RASCO, which is 557-2726. We'll get you to that line that's being monitored on a day-to-day basis. You look like you froze up. Do I still have you there,
Yep.
Chris?
Yep. I'm still here. I'm just resetting the camera.
Okay, good deal.
Yep.
Yeah, so either through the 1-800 number 557-2726 or at techserve@reliablesprinkler.com. So that goes to essentially the same person who during that week his job is to as we used to say sit in our pajamas and bunny slippers usually in the basement and just take care of business. So that's the way to get a hold of us. We don't do 24/7 support. However, that being said, most customers know how to get a hold of their salesman if they need to.
Yeah. If
And if
something's
and if they
dire.
don't, yeah, if they don't, we're not doing something right. So very common for that salesperson to reach out to tech services at all hours of the day and night and weekends to just say, hey, this one, we don't do this all the time. And they're very good about being specific about when they do it. But you'll always be able to get a hold of someone to answer a question. My guys, I call them my Marines, but my guys they'll if I send out a question to four of them, at 10:30 tonight, I'll get three answers back. So
Right.
really, really good and about getting stuff. Now, they're not going to hesitate to tell me if it was if someone was crying wolf or whatever, right? But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
again, they will get up and get out and do what they need to do. So
I'm going to say as a footnote here, maybe don't call your reliable salesman to find out if a K56 upright or pendant is the proper sprinkler for the job. I think reaching out to your salesman is kind of reserved for the heavy lifting when you're stuck, service calls, trying to get a system back in service, things like
yeah,
that.
it's a lot of good contractors out there, right? Some questionable, but for the most part, they're good, right? And
Yeah.
and guys figure it out. So and for us, it's really nice to be able to answer that question, right? I mean, it just
Right.
we were talking about getting the kind of the pat on the back here and there, but especially if it's the middle of the night or something, and you're able to get that guy going, they're very, very appreciative, and they
Absolutely.
kind of understand, right? It's you don't want to leave a guy out of impaired on his system or anything like that. So it's all used in the best intents, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a good service to have. Um, what other things with the tech do they use you guys for product development as well, or are you guys strictly on the customer service side of things?
No, we so again, I report to the vice president of product development, and he's my boss. Now, I and my guys and the other ladies that I talked about, we're the only people under product development. So,
Right.
our job again is to be out amongst the boots on the ground, hearing back what's needed, or monitoring the competition, right? Sometimes that's where it comes from. Hey,
Right.
this is coming out. We've heard about this. Or an end user may come to us and say, hey, we have a very specific need. And Reliable's well geared with our flow lab and floating ceilings and all that great stuff out in the back to,
Right.
build stuff up and flow water. We don't burn anything, right? Just because of the safety aspect of it. We're not a big fire burning lab, but we can run water and figure out what's going where. So from that aspect, again, that understanding of how that product's going to be used and what features are good and what features of existing are bad and just different things like that. All of that we're just one door away from our engineering department. So we're in constant communication through meetings and things like that, prototyping and different things to be able to say, this is good, this is bad. So
Right.
again, it's a way to bring the realities of the field into the design and development of the product.
And
But
and that's what needs to be done, right?
yeah, it has
It's
to.
there are other companies out there that are seems like are trying to dictate what the industry needs. Um, without maybe going to the fitters or the guys in the field and saying like, hey, what do you think if we switch this up and did it this way? Don't dictate what we need. Find out what the fitters and the contractors want and build around that.
Yeah, and the only caveat there is sometimes you got to be careful about what you ask for, right? So, because you know what's going to happen. We want everything. We want the world, right? So,
Yep.
and again, that's part of what we do as well during this process is to understand, okay, I understand, customer A that you would like this maybe because of your region or maybe it's one or two projects, but in reality, it doesn't translate across the US or across the globe. So
Right.
when we say we're not going to make that product or whatever the answer is, we hope that people will use their business sense and look at it and go, yeah, I kind of get it, right? But
Yeah.
but if we had the resources, would we love to give them everything? Sure. Uh, but that's just not the way any business is set up. So
Yeah. Ask for the world and take a country if you have to.
there you go. I like it. So you had asked a question earlier about who calls us,
Yeah.
and I started to answer, and again we went down the rabbit hole, but
It tends to happen
uh,
with this
fi-
podcast.
fitters, designers, purchasing agents. So those are our kind of our common customers, right? Then we get AHJs calling us
Right.
very, very regularly. Hey, we see this installation in the field. It doesn't seem to match up with the bulletin, or something looks funny about it. What can you guys tell us about it? Insurance companies, same thing for kind of the same reason as a kind of
Sure.
quasi AHJ. Homeowners, hey, I've got this sprinkler, the cover plate got busted or whatever. Where do I get a new one? Right? I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
who do you call? You call tech services. Um, Salespeople, my computer broke down and I need some technical help. And then I say, no, we're technical services, not IT. So
Yeah.
honestly, I say that facetiously, but you would be surprised at how many questions we get about IT issues, not technical issues. So kind of a fine line and always a fun conversation to have. But yeah,
Yeah. We're in the lines and circles business. We're not in the computer business.
well, yeah, we're in the O business, but not the I's and O's. How's that?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's better.
So
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to kind of let everybody know that's listening? What's available through your tech services department?
yeah, really, you call us. I mean, that's the thing. I would just say if if you have a question, call us.
Hmm.
And we will put you in touch with the right people. We get calls on Chris. We get calls on air compressors, right?
Right.
These are how the calls go. Okay, sir, what kind of air compressor do you have? We have a blue one. So that's that, right? So now we don't make air compressors here. We sell them through our system components department, but
Yep.
we get those calls because chances are maybe they bought it here,
Right.
or it's sitting alongside a reliable valve and they think, well, that's who I got to call. But
Part and
so
parcel.
so yeah,
Yeah.
so we'll help out as much as we can. We play name that sprinkler 3-4 times a week. It's always fun, right? We had one just this morning where we get some photos in. Somebody's doing a NFPA 25 inspection, or has to either fill a spare head cabinet, or maybe they're doing some renovations. What is this sprinkler? Those are always fun because it's kind of like the first guy that gets it kind of wins the prize. But
Yeah.
um, and I guess I would say this. I've got those 7 or 8 guys with all that experience. Um, I'm would struggle probably over the almost 9 years I've been here to think of a time when we couldn't answer a question. I
Right.
mean, it just really doesn't happen. Somebody has seen it before or seen something similar, or it's a new architectural feature or something like that, right? So those kind of things, kind of speaking of that, I don't know how much time we got left here, but one of the other things that our group does is committees,
Right.
right? So we're represented on obviously 13, 11, 13, 25. I mean, all the 855, all these committees that we sit on. And so, to your point of where do you get information, from a manufacturer standpoint, that there's a lot of information flying around that room with a lot of people much smarter than I am. So I've
Right.
said it before in presentations. I sit in awe in those meetings Some people find them a little bit tedious and boring, but I'm fascinated by the brain power in the room. But it's always kind of fun to see where the industry is heading,
Hmm.
rather than when you're a designer, you never seem to have time to keep up on the standards or read the
Right.
magazines, and all
Yeah.
of a sudden you kind of get blindsided with stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, so we take that information, AFSA, NFSA, NFPA committees, and when it's possible, when it's appropriate, we share that with customers. Hey, here's what you're going to be looking for in the next, in the 2022 edition. This stuff's coming down the road, things like that. So,
Right.
yeah. And then of course the fun stuff, right? The conventions, the golf tournaments, the fundraisers, the whatever it
That's
is
what
they
you
do.
consider the fun stuff? You don't consider the technical phone calls the fun stuff? Oh my goodness, that's crazy. You'd rather go golfing than do the tech calls? Monster.
I'm much better at answering your technical question than I am putting it in from 70 yards out. Let's put it that way.
That's fair. I am not very I never played golf growing up. It was I would golf one or two times a year just with my friends to go out, but I'm not making the PGA anytime soon. I
Yeah,
enjoy it. I do enjoy it, but I think I more enjoy the hydration aspect of golfing
yeah,
than
that part of it. And I would say this as well, and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't, but I haven't paid for a round of golf in a number of years. So if they want me to go out and tell me it's part of my job and pay me to do it, or pay to play a nice round of golf somewhere, I'm all about it.
that sounds pretty good to me. How do you lose, right?
Yeah. You don't. You don't. It's
Awesome.
all up here when you lose.
Awesome. Cary, say it one more time, just how people get a hold of the tech services department at Reliable.
Sure. The toll-free number is 1-800-55-RASCO, which is 557-2726, or TechServe, TECHSERV at reliablesprinkler.com. And
Cary, always a pleasure to have you on the podcast and talk to you. Anytime you want to come back on and talk here, we tend to go off tangents. That's the joy of the podcast. It's just, we're just here to talk sprinkler.
well, I would say this, no matter where I'm at, I get the butterflies, right? I was sitting in my room a couple hours ago, and I'm like, I'm going to be across the miles, across the Ethernet from Chris. Why am I nervous here? But you got just a spectacular way of putting people at ease and making the conversation flow very nice. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate that. Thank you very, very much.
Be happy to help you out anytime we can.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And thanks again for joining. And thanks for listening to anybody who's still there. Thank you very much. And we'll talk again soon.
Cheers, Chris.
Hey everyone, this episode of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast is done. If you liked this episode, leave a review, comment, or hop over to my social media pages and let me know. Just search Fire Sprinkler Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Don't forget to hashtag Fire Sprinkler Podcast and anything you think I should know about or see. If you have any suggestions for future episodes of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast, email info@firesprinklerpodcast.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Take care.